I walked into my son's house on Christmas Day knowing he didn't want me there. I wasn't confused, I wasn't lost, I wasn't hoping for a miracle. I came because I was done letting them decide where I belonged. The moment I stepped inside, every conversation in the living room died. Forks hit plates, people turned in unison. They looked at me like I had committed a crime by showing up. Derek stood first. He didn't hide his satisfaction. "Oh, look who crawled in," he said loudly. "We forgot about you. Again." Some relatives laughed, not because it was funny, because cruelty is easy when someone else starts it. Claire stepped beside him instantly. She always did. She held her wine glass like a trophy and said, "Dorothy, didn't you get the family text? Everyone was informed. Everyone but you, apparently." My voice stayed steady. "I didn't receive anything." She shrugged, fake sweet. "Maybe you tapped the wrong buttons on your phone. Happens at your age." Derek added, "Yeah, Mom. It's a family Christmas." Keyword, family. He dragged out the last word like I didn't qualify. "I am family," I said calmly. He smirked. "Barely." Someone whispered, "That's rough," but no one stopped him. They wanted to see how far he'd go. Claire looked me up and down, judging every inch. "Well, you're here now. Just don't disrupt anything. We planned a peaceful day." A peaceful day. After intentionally excluding me. Derek pointed toward a cheap folding chair shoved against the wall. "You can sit back there. We already opened presents. Didn't think you'd show up." I didn't move. "I didn't come here to sit in a corner." Claire dropped her smile. "Then why did you come?" "To give something," I said. A cousin muttered, "Uh-oh." Another murmured, "Here we go." Derek laughed sharply. "You? Give something? Mom, don't start. Just don't." "Sit," Claire ordered, "or leave. Those are your options." "No," I said plainly. "Those aren't my options." She blinked, stunned that I didn't fold the moment she told me to. "Dorothy, stop acting dramatic." "I'm not acting," I replied. "I'm responding." Derek rubbed his temples. "Here we go. She's about to guilt trip us." "You embarrassed yourselves," I said. "I'm simply not covering for you anymore." Every head turned sharply. Derek's jaw tightened. Claire's eyes burned. "Excuse me?" Derek snapped. "You heard me?" I said. "Loud and clear." Claire stepped forward, voice rising. "You walk into our house on our holiday without an invitation and then you talk to us like that?" "It's not your house," I said. Their faces changed instantly. A switch flipped. Fear slipped in for the first time, but they tried to hide it. Derek barked, "Mom, put whatever you brought away and just sit down." "No." I opened my purse slowly. The room froze. I pulled out a plain manila envelope and held it up. No theatrics, just fact. My fingers didn't shake. Claire's voice cracked. "What is that?" "You'll see," Derek scoffed. "Mom, if you're waving around old receipts..." "It's not old receipts," I said. "It's the truth." The relatives leaned in. Someone said, "This looks serious." Someone else whispered, "She brought paperwork." Claire hissed, "Dorothy, don't make a scene." "You made the scene," I answered. "I'm finishing it." Derek raised his voice. "Stop playing games." "I'm not playing," I said. "This is the last Christmas you get to decide who matters." Claire slammed her glass on the table. "You need to leave." "No," I repeated. "You don't get to command me anymore." Derek stepped forward until he was right in front of me. "You're ruining this family." I looked him dead in the eye. "You already did." His face flushed red. "Put that envelope down." "No," I said. "Everyone here deserves to see what you've turned into." Gasps. Chairs scraped. The room tightened around us. Claire demanded, "Dorothy, what did you do?" I raised the envelope. Aghast. "You forgot about me. But I didn't forget about anything." Derek's voice cracked with something that sounded close to panic. "Mom, don't." "I will," I said. "And you're going to listen." Claire reached for the envelope. I pulled it back. "Touch me," I warned, "and you'll regret it." The room went dead silent. I said the words slowly, clearly, and without mercy. It's okay. Look what I got. The envelope hung between us like a blade. The humiliation they planned flipped in an instant. Derek's breath hitched. Claire froze solid. Relatives stared, stunned, wide-eyed, terrified of what would happen next. 1 week before Christmas, Derek and Claire showed up at my house without warning. They didn't knock. They didn't call. They barged in like they owned the place. I was at the kitchen sink when the door flew open. Derek shouted, "Mom, we need $18,000 today." Not hello, not how are you, just a demand, sharp, urgent, entitled. Claire stood behind him holding a stack of bills thick enough to choke a shredder. She slammed them onto my kitchen table so hard that a few slipped onto the floor. "There," she said coldly, "read it. We don't have time." I dried my hands and walked over. "What is this for?" Derek threw his hands up dramatically. "Does it matter? It's due today." "That's what you said 2 weeks ago," I replied. Claire cut in immediately. "And? Emergencies don't wait, Dorothy." I picked up the first bill. "These are credit card minimums." Derek snapped, "Don't lecture us. Just help." Then Claire leaned forward, lowering her voice like she was talking to a confused child. "If you really cared, you wouldn't be asking questions." There it was. The same emotional knife they always used. Every time they needed money, they accused me of not loving them enough. I took a breath. "I'm not writing any check until I understand what I'm paying for." Derek slammed his hand on the table. "Mom, we're drowning." "You said the same thing last month," I said, "and the month before." Claire scoffed loudly. "She's doing it again, acting like we're teenagers asking for allowance." "You're adults," I said, "then act like it." Derek stepped right into my space. "We need $18,000 by 5 o'clock, or collectors start calling." "And whose fault is that?" I asked. He glared at me like I had betrayed him. "Yours, actually. You raised me alone. You should have taught me better about money." Claire nodded quickly, supporting the attack. "Exactly. Derek made mistakes because you spoiled him. Now you're refusing to fix it? That's cruel, Dorothy." I stared at her. "Mistakes? Or decisions?" She snapped, "Same thing." "No," I said. "They're not." Derek paced my kitchen like a caged animal. He kept checking his phone, muttering, "We're screwed. We're screwed. We're screwed." Claire grabbed the bills and shoved them toward me again. "Just give us the money. We don't need your judgment. We need your signature." "I'm asking for the paperwork," I said. "The real paperwork, the statements, the totals." Claire rolled her eyes so hard her whole head moved. "You're being difficult on purpose." Derek exploded. "Why can't you just help your own family?" I stepped back. "Because I've helped for 15 years. College, wedding, cars, rent, everything." Claire shouted, "Stop bringing up the past. That's manipulative." I couldn't help it. I laughed once under my breath. "Manipulative?" Her face turned red instantly. "You think this is funny?" "No," I said. "I think it's predictable." Derek closed the distance between us again. "Mom, I swear, if you loved your grandchildren, you'd help us." And there it was, the lowest blow, the one they always used. Ella and Tyler, their shield, their bargaining chips. I kept my voice steady. "Don't use the children to guilt me." Claire shouted, "We're not guilting you. We're surviving." I picked up another paper from the stack, a payday loan, interest so high it barely looked legal. I held it up. "This is not survival. This is reckless." Derek snatched it from my hand. "We did what we had to do." "No," I said. "You did what you wanted." He pointed his finger an inch from my face. "You're unbelievable. All you ever do is question us." "And all you ever do," I replied, "is take." Claire slammed her purse onto the table. "We're done asking nicely." Derek held out his hand like a debt collector. 18,000, now." I didn't move. He shook his head. "Wow, unbelievable, after everything we've done for you." I raised a brow. "What exactly have you done for me?" He froze. Claire froze. The room went dead silent. Then Claire hissed, "She's punishing us. I knew it. She's been waiting for this. She loves watching us struggle." "No," I said. "I'm tired of being used." Derek grabbed the pile of bills again and slammed them down so hard the table rattled. "Last chance, Mom." "No," I said simply. He stared at me like I had slapped him. "What did you say?" "No," Claire scoffed. "You're refusing? Seriously? After everything we've asked?" I nodded once. "Correct." She threw her hands up. "Derek, she's insane." He pointed at the door. "Maybe you should just go, Mom." There it was. The line that would come back to destroy him later. The same line he'd repeat in front of relatives on Christmas Day. But this time, it hit differently. This time, it clicked. This time, something in me shut off. I said, "If I'm not wanted, I'll go." "Good," Claire fired back immediately. "Less stress for everyone," Derek added. "And don't come back asking for forgiveness. We're done with that game." I looked at both of them and spoke quietly, clearly. "I won't need forgiveness." They didn't understand the meaning. Not yet. I grabbed my coat, left them with their bills on the table, and walked out. I didn't look back. I went back to their house 2 days after the argument. Not because I wanted another fight, not because I hoped for an apology. I went because I had spent the entire night reviewing numbers, bills, past transfers, and bank statements I had printed years ago. If they truly were drowning, I wanted to see the truth with my own eyes. I wanted clarity, not chaos. When I walked in, Derek and Claire were sitting at the dining table surrounded by more paperwork, loans, transaction slips, late fees. It looked like the same battlefield they had brought into my kitchen. Claire didn't greet me. She just sighed loudly. "Oh, great. Round 2. Derek didn't look up. "What do you want, Mom?" I sat down across from them, my voice steady. "I came to help." Claire burst out laughing. "Help? By interrogating us again?" "I reviewed the numbers," I said, "and I think the first thing we need to do is create a budget, a real budget, line by line." Derek snapped his head up like I had slapped him. "A budget? We don't need a lesson, Mom." I stayed calm. "You need structure. You need to see where the money is going." Claire cut me off sharply. "Here she goes again, treating us like children." "You're acting like children," I replied simply. Claire's face twisted in irritation. "Wow, she doesn't even hide it anymore." I ignored her and looked at Derek. "If we track your expenses, we can identify what's draining you. We can fix things the right way." Derek slammed his fist down on the table so hard the pens rattled. "What I need is $18,000. What I don't need is a lecture." "You've said that 3 times this month," I said quietly. "At some point, Derek, we have to stop the bleeding. The numbers don't lie." He stood up sharply. "So now I'm irresponsible? Is that it?" "I never said that." "You didn't need to," he barked. "It's written all over your face." Claire leaned close to him and whispered loudly enough that she knew I'd hear. "She's being selfish again. She always has been." I turned to her. "Wanting clarity is not selfish," she smirked. "But refusing to help your own family is." I felt something sink in my chest. Not anger, not surprise, but the kind of disappointment that comes from hearing the same cruel sentence for the 100th time. Derek shoved the paperwork toward me. "You want a budget?" he snapped. "Here, budget this." I pushed the papers back gently. "Screaming doesn't change the numbers." He glared at me with a look I had never seen on my own child's face. Pure resentment. "I'm done with this. I'm done with you acting like you're above us." "I'm trying to help," I repeated. Claire muttered again, almost enjoying each word. "Selfish. Always selfish." The word hit harder than I expected. Not because I believed it, but because they wanted me to. I tried one more time. "Let's sit down. Let's look at your expenses. Together." Derek pointed at the door. "Mom, stop. Seriously, stop telling me how to live." "I'm not telling you how to live. I'm trying to help you live without debt." He stepped closer. I don't want your help. I took a breath. Then tell me what you want. I want money, he screamed, not your opinions. The room went silent. Even Claire froze. I stared at him. Then I can't give you what you want. His jaw tightened. Then why are you still here? Because I'm your mother, I said. And I'm not giving up on you. Claire snorted. He doesn't need you. Derek didn't correct her. Something cold slid into place inside me. I tried one last time. I want to sit with you. I want to understand. I want to help you fix this. Claire made a mocking pout. Aw, look at her, playing the victim. I turned to Derek. You know this can't continue. He raised his voice again. You know what can't continue? You. Coming here. Making things worse. Acting like we owe you explanations. I'm asking because I care, I said. Claire leaned into Derek's shoulder. She loves controlling us. That's all this is. Enough, Derek growled. He pointed at the door again, harder this time. Maybe you should just go. The words stabbed deeper than any scream. I swallowed. Is that what you want? He didn't hesitate. Yes. And the children? I asked quietly. Do I get to see them? Claire crossed her arms. Not until you stop causing problems. Derek nodded, supporting her without even thinking. You bring drama, Mom. They don't need that. Drama. From the two people who brought bills, demands, and accusations into my home. I stood slowly. I see. Derek looked at me like I was a stranger breaking into his life. You're barely family at this point. You make everything harder. Barely family. Claire watched my face carefully, hungry for a reaction. I didn't give her one. I walked toward the door. My steps were steady, but my chest felt tight. When I reached the doorway, I paused. I raised you, I said quietly. I supported you. I stood by you. And now you're throwing me out of your home. Derek didn't look away. You threw yourself out by refusing to help, Claire added with a cruel sweetness. Next time, think twice before judging us. I nodded once. Noted. Then I stepped through the doorway. For a moment I hoped, just a small, foolish moment, that Derek would call after me, that he'd soften, that he'd show something human. He didn't. He said, "Close the door behind you." I did. The sound of it shutting echoed through the hallway, sharp, final, cold. When I got home that night, the house felt colder than usual. Maybe it was just me. Maybe it was the way Derek's words were still hanging in the back of my mind, replaying themselves without my permission. You're barely family. Maybe you should just go. We don't need you. I set my keys on the counter and stood in the living room without turning on the main lights. Only the small lamp next to the bookshelf was on, casting a warm yellow glow across the room. It was soft, quiet, and honest, something I couldn't find anywhere else anymore. I walked toward the hallway closet, my old filing cabinet tucked behind winter coats and spare blankets. I hadn't opened it fully in years, only pulled out a document here and there when taxes came up. But tonight, I opened the door all the way. The metal cabinet sat where it always did, silent, unmoving, waiting. I pulled the top drawer open. It made a familiar scraping sound against the rails. For a moment, I just looked at the folders. Blue for college, white for wedding, green for housing, yellow for repairs. My system, my order, my proof of the life I had spent building for them. I reached for the blue folder first. College. I sat down on the floor with it and opened it slowly. Acceptance letters, tuition statements, payments I had made during Derek's freshman year when he was too overwhelmed to handle paperwork. Payment plans I covered during his sophomore slump. He told me he'd repay everything once he graduated. He never did. He never mentioned it again. I checked the totals. $68,000, all paid by me. I set it aside, not gently, not harshly, just with finality. Next was the white folder. Wedding, receipts from catering, venue deposit. The photographer Claire insisted on. The tux rental Derek forgot to pick up, so I had to handle it last minute. The cake, the decorations. Claire's parents promised to cover half, but backed out the week before. I had stepped in without thinking twice. Total, $42,500. I breathed in slowly. The lamp hummed behind me, then the green folder, down payment, their first house. Derek called it an investment. I called it a chance for stability. I gave them the down payment because I wanted them to start strong. I wanted them to feel secure. I flipped through the bank statements and letters from the broker. My handwriting was still on one of the envelopes. $120,000. I closed the folder carefully. Then the yellow one. Car repairs. The list was endless. Transmission failure. Brake replacements. Engine light that stayed on for months because they couldn't afford diagnostics. Derek called me every time, panicked, claiming the car might kill him and the kids. I always stepped in. I always covered it. I scanned through. $800, $1,450, $200, $600, $900, $2,750. Total, $14,700. I moved on to the medical folder. Then the child-related emergencies. Then the surprise bills. Then the just this once. Then the please mom, I swear it's the last time. Every folder had the same pattern. I carried them into the living room, one by one, piling them on the carpet. Blue, white, green, yellow, red, orange, brown. 15 years worth of favors. 15 years worth of panic calls. 15 years worth of just for now. I opened each folder again, recalculating totals, matching receipts, checking dates. College, $68,000. Wedding, $42,500. Down payment, $120,000. Car repairs, $14,700 MSC. Emergencies, $66,800. I added them twice, then a third time, $312,000. I sat back on the floor and stared at the number. $312,000. I whispered it out loud once, just to hear it in the air. 312,000. It didn't sound real. I closed my eyes and let the number settle inside me. Every dollar had been a response to their emergencies, emergencies that never seemed to end. 15 years of emergencies. I said it softly, but it filled the room. 15 years of me fixing everything. 15 years of them refusing to stand on their own feet. 15 years of believing I was helping when I was only enabling. I opened my eyes and looked at the photo on the bookshelf, the one of David at the lake, holding our son when he was 5. David's smile was tired in that picture. He had always carried more than he said. I got up and walked toward it. His voice came back to me clearly, the same sentence he repeated every time Derek got into trouble as a teenager. Love means saying no. I had ignored him back then. I thought I knew better. I thought generosity would save Derek from himself. But David wasn't wrong. I was. I pressed my fingers lightly on the glass frame. I should have listened to you, I whispered. I should have said no. The lamp flickered softly behind me. The house was quiet, but my mind was sharp, clearer than it had been in years. I walked back to the folders on the floor. I looked at every number again, every decision I had made. None of it was loans. There were no IOUs, no repayment plans, no agreements. They were all gifts, every dollar given freely, every dollar twisted into expectation, every dollar reshaped into resentment. I had enabled Derek's dependency for 15 years. I had trained him to treat me like a safety net he could tear apart without consequences. He wasn't drowning. He was refusing to swim. I sat down again, staring at the mountain of paper in front of me. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. For the first time, I didn't feel obligated. For the first time, I felt awake. I gathered the receipts into neat stacks. My hands were steady, my breathing even. Then I said it out loud, for myself. This stops now. The house stayed quiet, but something inside me shifted. Something firm, something solid, something that had been waiting years to finally stand up. I looked at the folders once more, then at the picture of David. "Love means saying no," I repeated softly. "And I'm finally ready." I didn't sleep that night, not because I was upset, but because my mind wouldn't stop moving. For the first time in years, it wasn't spinning in panic. It was calculating. Around 2 a.m, I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, looking at my reflection under the soft yellow light. My face looked older than I remembered, not because of time, but because of everything I had carried for everyone else. "I've solved everyone's problems but my own," I said quietly to the mirror, "and I'm done doing that." The decision settled like cold steel inside me. Enough. I walked to the kitchen, boiled water, and made tea the same way David used to make it. Strong, simple, no sugar. I set the mug beside my laptop on the dining table, sat down, and opened the lid. The screen lit up the room, bright and sharp against the dark. This was the moment my mind shifted from mother to strategist. I typed my first search, debt purchasing rights in our state. Dozens of results filled the screen. Agencies, legal explanations, collection protocols, how debts were bundled and sold. How to become a private debt holder. I clicked everything. My eyes scanned line after line. Unsecured debt, charged off accounts, collection authority, assignment agreements. I read faster than I had in years. Not because it was easy, because it made sense. For 15 years I had been reacting. Tonight I was designing. I opened a notebook and wrote, Step 1, identify debt owners. Step 2, purchase accounts at discount. Step 3, establish collection authority. Step 4, regain leverage. The tea cooled. I didn't notice. I moved to the next search. Foreclosure law, non-payment, cosigner rights. More results. More pathways. More power than I realized I had. I clicked a PDF explaining forced sale rights when a cosigner covered major payments. I highlighted sections. I took notes. I made a second list. Step 1, determine lien position. Step 2, file for assignment. Step 3, initiate pre-foreclosure notifications if needed. My laptop screen glowed brighter as the house stayed silent around me. It was the kind of silence where things finally become clear. I leaned back and said, "He pushed me out of his home. He doesn't get to push me out of my own life." Then I searched. How to legally protect yourself from accusations of incompetence. Because I knew what Derek and Claire would do the moment they realized I wasn't bending anymore. They would attack my sanity. They would paint me as unstable, confused, old, weak. I kept reading. Competency exams, medical evaluations, legal affidavits. Then I picked up my phone. The time read 3:12 a.m. I didn't care. I dialed the one person who had always given me straight answers. "Dorothy?" Hannah's voice was groggy but steady. "Is something wrong?" "No," I said. "Something is finally right." She shifted, more alert. "Tell me what happened." "I need help," I said plainly. "Not the emotional kind, the legal kind." "What kind of legal?" she asked. "Multiple," I said. "Debt assignment, asset leverage, liability transfer, and I need a full strategy." She was quiet for a moment. Then she said, "You sound very calm." "I am," I answered. "I just need someone who knows the law as well as I know numbers." "Then tell me everything," Hannah said. I laid it out for her. Every bill, every emergency, every debt, every manipulation. I told her about the down payment, the tuition, the wedding, the car repairs, the expectations, the insults, the dismissal. Then I told her Derek's exact words. "You're barely family. Maybe you should just go." There was a long pause. Finally, Hannah said, "All right, we do this step by step. I'll draft the preliminary legal routes in the morning." "I'll be awake," I said. "I know," she replied. "Dorothy, this won't be easy." "I don't want easy," I said. "I want control." I ended the call and turned back to the laptop. I kept digging. Collection statutes, notification requirements, how debt brokers evaluate accounts, how much delinquent accounts typically sell for, how quickly transfer rights can be executed. I looked at the structure and knew instantly. This wasn't anger. This wasn't revenge. This was math. I had been solving problems for other people for 15 years. Tonight, I remembered I was good at it. Very good. Then I wrote the first line. I will handle this the same way I handled everything else. Calmly, correctly, and completely. The sun was starting to lighten the edge of the curtains. I had been working for hours, but I didn't feel tired. I felt awake, focused, more myself than I had felt in years. I stood up, stretched my legs, and looked around the quiet house. Every long night, every ignored red flag, every unpaid debt, every insult, they had all led to this moment. The moment I stopped carrying them. I walked back to the mirror in the hallway. The same reflection looked back at me. But the woman behind it was not the same. I'm done waiting, I said. This time, I'm the one making the decisions. I turned off the bathroom light, walked to the laptop, and added the final line to my plan. Initiate. And at that exact second, the shift inside me became permanent. The next morning, I drove to Derek's neighborhood. Not to visit, not to talk, to observe. I parked halfway down the street, far enough that no one would notice the old sedan I drove, but close enough to see the house clearly. Derek's place looked even more extravagant in the daylight. New landscaping, fresh paint, holiday lights wrapped around every column. 2 delivery trucks pulled up within 10 minutes, one dropping off furniture, the other delivering a box big enough to be a new TV. I watched through my windshield, calm, steady. They were drowning, and somehow the house kept getting nicer. I wrote in my notebook, spending inconsistent with income. Multiple luxury upgrades. Financial pressure. Denial cycle. Then I watched Claire walk outside in a silk robe, coffee in hand, shouting at a delivery guy because the box had a small dent. Meanwhile, Derek rushed out behind her, pretending to be composed but pacing in tight circles like a man on the edge. I kept watching until the pattern was undeniable. Lavish lifestyle. No restraint. No awareness. No control. I closed my notebook and drove to meet Marion. She was waiting for me at a small diner we used to visit after church. As soon as she saw me walk in, she stood, took one look at my face, and said softly, "Dorothy, what happened?" "A long story," I said, "but I need information." She sat down quickly. "About Derek?" "Yes." She hesitated, then exhaled. "I didn't know if I should tell you, but since you're asking..." She lowered her voice. "He's been gambling money on those online investment apps, high-risk day trading, options, crypto, things he barely understands." I didn't look away. "How bad?" Marion swallowed. "Dorothy, he's drowning in debt." The diner noise faded. Those words hit harder than I expected, because they made everything click. The emergencies, the anger, the entitlement. It had never been about me. It had always been about the pit he kept digging for himself. I said quietly, "He told me he was fine." Marion pressed her lips together. "He's not. People talk, Dorothy. He's been borrowing from coworkers, from neighbors, even from church members, and he's lying to all of them." I wrote in my notebook, multiple lenders, day trading addiction, borrowed widely, debt spiral. Then I closed it. "Thank you," I said simply. Marion grabbed my hand. "Please be careful. He's desperate." "I know," I said. "That's why I'm doing this." I left the diner and sat in my car for a moment, collecting myself. Not emotionally, logically. Every piece of information was a pattern. Every pattern pointed to the same conclusion. Derek didn't have a financial crisis. He had a behavioral one, and I would use that. I pulled out my phone and dialed Derek. He answered too quickly. "Mom?" he said, breathless. "Everything okay?" "Yes," I said calmly. "I've been thinking maybe I overreacted. Maybe I shouldn't have asked so many questions." Silence. Not relief. Calculation. I continued. "I want to help if you still need it." He took the bait. Hard. "Actually, yeah, we really do. Things are rough right now. Claire's stressed. The kids are stressed. If you could just do 18,000 now, I swear this would fix everything." 18? I repeated. "That's very specific." Just what we need. Today, he said quickly. I let the silence stretch. When people lie, silence exposes them faster than confrontation. Then I said, "All right, but before anything, I want to see your outstanding balances, just to make sure it's all going to the right place." His tone snapped instantly. "What do you mean, balances? Why don't you trust me?" "I'm offering to help," I said, cold and steady. "But I need numbers. Send me everything you owe." "I don't have time for that. Claire doesn't need this stress. The kids don't need this stress." "Why are you making everything so difficult?" "Because you're lying." But I said only, "If you need money, send the statements." He hung up without another word. I wrote in my notebook, "Panic response equals confirmation. Refusal to disclose equals hidden debt. Claims emotional stress equals manipulation." Then I drove to Hannah's office. She had already prepared a folder for me, color-coded, tabbed, perfect. "Dorothy," she said, sitting across from me, "before we proceed, I need to know your goal. Clarity is everything." I opened my notebook to the first page. "Accountability," I said, "and control." She nodded. "Then here's how we start." She walked me through the legal pathway. Transfer of debt ownership, assignment rights, lien possibilities, property leverage, pre-foreclosure protocol, everything I had researched the night before, but sharper, cleaner, legally airtight. Then she added, "I also contacted someone who can help us gather information quietly." The office door opened and a woman stepped inside. Dark jacket, practical boots, no expression. "Dorothy Rowe?" she said. "Yes." "I'm Rita Monroe. Hannah told me you need clarity about your son's financial picture." I studied her. Calm, controlled, efficient. Exactly the kind of person Derek would never see coming. "What do you need from me?" I asked. Rita sat down. "Access to any paperwork you have, receipts, past emergencies, phone logs if possible, and your permission to run background polls." "You have it," I said. She nodded. "I'll start today." Hannah leaned forward. "Dorothy, once Rita collects everything, we'll know exactly how deep this goes, and we'll structure your position from there." Rita added, "From what I've heard, he's juggling more than he can handle." I looked at both of them and spoke clearly. "He's been juggling for 15 years. It's time he learns what happens when he drops the ball." Rita's expression didn't change, but she closed her notebook with a small click. "I'll send updates tonight." I stood, shook both their hands, and walked out of the office. For the first time in a long time, I didn't feel small walking to my car. I felt prepared. Everything Derek had hidden was about to surface, not because I forced it, but because the truth always rises when someone finally stops holding it down. The next morning, Hannah called me before sunrise. "Dorothy, Rita finished the first pass. There's enough here to move forward." "Good," I said. "Tell me where to go." "Come to the office," she replied. "We're buying debt today." I didn't waste time. I drove straight there, walked in, and saw 2 folders already waiting on the table. Thick ones. Rita sat in the corner, laptop open, expression unreadable. Hannah gestured for me to sit. "Dorothy," she said, sliding the first folder toward me, "this is the verified list of Derek's delinquent accounts, credit cards, personal loans, medical payment plans he let default, and 2 payday loans." I opened the folder. The numbers were worse than I thought. $2,400, $6,300, $9,700, $13,200, $4,900, $8,500, $32,000, all overdue, all in collections, all attached to Derek Rowe. Hannah tapped the page. Total outstanding, $75,452. But because the accounts are old and classified as high risk, we can purchase them bundled for roughly 30% of the total. I said nothing. I kept reading. Rita added, "We already contacted an agency willing to sell the entire bundle, Midwest Recovery Solutions." Hannah corrected her, smiling slightly. "But once the sale is finalized, it won't be Midwest Recovery anymore." I looked up. "What will it be?" Hannah slid over a paper with a new letterhead. Northwest Resolve Agency, Managing Agent, Dorothy Rowe. I stared at the document for a moment, calm, focused. Rita spoke quietly. Once you sign, you become his primary creditor. Legally, fully, everything he owes to you. And he won't know it's me? I asked. Not unless you want him to, Hannah said. You'll be acting as an agency, not as an individual. I nodded. Then let's begin. Hannah brought out the contract. This finalizes the assignment. Once you sign, Northwest Resolve Agency becomes the sole owner of his delinquent accounts. I picked up the pen, steady hand, no hesitation. I signed. Hannah countersigned. Rita notarized. It was swift, clean, clinical. Hannah closed the folder and said, "Congratulations, Dorothy. You just bought $75,000 of debt for $27,000. You now control every payment schedule and every consequence attached to it." Rita added, "And we're about to enforce all of them." She pulled out a stack of envelopes. Thick, official, stamped. Certified mail. Stamps already fixed in neat rows. Green slips attached. Return receipts ready. I recognized the format immediately. Debt collection notices. The kind people dread seeing in their mailbox. Rita handed me one. "This is the first notice Derek will receive. It states that all his accounts have been reassigned to Northwest Resolve Agency and that he has 21 days to respond before legal action escalates." I read it. Short, precise, cold. Hannah said, "If he ignores it, we move to the next step." "What's the next step?" I asked. "Asset leverage," she replied simply. I placed the notice back on the stack. "Send them." Rita didn't blink. She sealed the envelopes, pressed each stamp firmly with the flat of her thumb, and slid them into a mail bag. "They'll go out today," she said. "He'll get them within 48 hours. I stood. Good. By the time I left Hannah's office, the sun was high. I knew Derek and Claire were still asleep, wrapped in silk sheets, thinking the world would bend for them like it always had. They had no idea what was coming. 2 days later, Derek called me at 9:03 a.m. I didn't answer. At 9:08, Claire called. I didn't answer. At 9:12, Derek again. Voicemail. At 9:15, a text came through. "Mom, did you do something? We got some kind of legal letter. It looks serious. Call me." I didn't reply, because I didn't need to. At 11:40 a.m., Derek called again, this time leaving a voicemail so frantic the words tripped over each other. Mom, please call me. We got a certified notice from some agency, Northwest something. I don't even know who they are. They're saying they own all my accounts now, all my loans. What is this? They're threatening legal action." I didn't pick up. I sat at my kitchen table drinking tea. At 1:02 p.m., he finally gave up calling me and called Hannah instead. He didn't know that, of course. Northwest Resolve Agency's phone number forwarded directly to her office line. I was sitting with Hannah when the call came in. She put it on speaker. Derek's voice exploded through the phone. "What do you people want from me?" Hannah spoke professionally, cool, direct. "Mr. Rowe, this line is monitored. Please keep your voice down. I don't understand what's going on. Why do I suddenly owe everything to you people? I've never even heard of your agency." "Your accounts were reassigned," Hannah said calmly. "You'll need to arrange payment within 21 days. "I can't pay that," Derek shouted. "Who sold you my debt?" "That information is confidential," Hannah replied. Claire's voice joined in the background, shrill and panicked. "Tell them we're disputing it. Tell them this is harassment. Tell them we'll sue." Hannah didn't flinch. "All communication is documented, Mrs. Rowe. You may pursue legal recourse, but the debt remains enforceable." Derek's breathing turned ragged. "You're ruining our lives," he said. "You're destroying everything." I looked at Hannah. She didn't smile. She didn't frown. She simply ended the call. "They'll call again," she said. I nodded. "And you'll answer." At 4:17 p.m., Derek finally sent me a text. "Mom, please, something is wrong. These people are serious. Please call me. I'm scared." I didn't call. Because this wasn't punishment. This was accountability. That evening, Rita sent me a message. He called 3 times. Panic escalating, exact pattern expected. I replied, "Continue." Rita wrote back, "Next notices scheduled for tomorrow. Certified again." I closed my phone and looked out the window, the house quiet, the sun fading. For years, Derek had assumed I was soft, bendable, reliable, the endless solution to every problem he created. The second wave of notices went out at 7:15 that morning. Rita dropped them into the mail slot herself, certified, stamped, logged. By the time she returned to Hannah's office, Derek and Claire were already unraveling. At 8:02 a.m., my phone vibrated. I didn't answer. A voicemail followed immediately, Derek's voice shaking. "Mom, call me back, please. These letters are escalating. They're saying they can start asset actions. This isn't normal. Something is wrong. Call me." I poured myself tea and set the phone face down. At 9:10, Hannah's agency line rang. I sat across from her as she pressed speaker. "Northwest Resolve Agency, how can I assist you?" Derek's voice exploded through the room. "Listen to me. You people are making mistakes. These accounts are not mine," Hannah answered calmly. "Mr. Rowe, these accounts have been verified. Documentation was transferred through proper channels." No, you don't understand," he said, breathing hard. "I didn't agree to this. I didn't authorize these transfers." "You don't need to authorize anything," Hannah replied. "Creditors sell delinquent accounts. It's legal. It's final." Claire's voice shouted in the background. "Threaten them with a lawyer!" Derek yelled. "We're reporting you. We know you're targeting my mother, an elder. This is exploitation." Hannah didn't blink. "Your mother is fully competent. We have recent medical certification." There was instant silence on the line. Then Claire hissed, "She did that on purpose." Hannah replied, "She did it to protect herself from false claims. You have 19 days remaining." She hung up. I didn't smile. I didn't need to. By noon, their counterattack began. Marion called me from the church parking lot, whispering urgently, "Dorothy, they're saying you're declining. Derek told 3 people you're confused and forgetting things. Claire told someone you're being manipulated by scammers." I said calmly, "Let them talk." Marion lowered her voice, lowered her. "Claire said they might need to take over your finances for your safety." My grip tightened slightly on the phone. "They tried to discredit me before. They'll try harder now." "You're not angry?" Marion asked. "No," I said, "because everything they're saying is legally irrelevant." Marion exhaled in relief. "You're handling this better than anyone I know." At 2:45 p.m., Marjorie called. Her tone was cautious, almost apologetic. "Dorothy, I just want to check on you. Derek said you've been confused lately." I spoke slowly, clearly. "Marjorie, I had a full competency exam last week. Independent, certified. I passed every test." "Oh," she whispered. "He didn't mention that." "Of course he didn't," I said. "Because the truth wouldn't help him." There was a pause, then a soft, firm reply. "What do you need from me?" "Just watch," I said. "And remember who's telling the truth." At 4:12 p.m., Claire escalated again, this time with a text from an unknown number. "Dorothy, we're worried. Please understand you're being targeted. We just want to protect you." I responded with one line. "A court-certified exam confirms otherwise." Seconds later, Claire replied, "You tricked them. You're being unstable. We're documenting everything." But Claire made one mistake. She assumed noise was power. In legal matters, silence is stronger. I didn't answer. At 5:33 p.m., Hannah's office line rang for the 3rd time. She motioned me closer, pressed speaker. Claire's voice came out first. High, frantic, brittle. "You have no right to put this kind of stress on an elderly woman. Dorothy is confused. She needs help." Hannah replied evenly. "Mrs. Rowe, your claims contradict medical certification submitted 3 days ago. If you continue spreading inaccurate statements about her mental state, we will consider legal remedies." Claire froze. Her silence was louder than her screaming. Derek quickly jumped in. Listen, please. We can work something out. Just tell us how to stop this." Hannah answered, "Payment." "We don't have 75,000, Derek cried. "We can't just make that appear." "Then consequences will proceed," Hannah said. Claire screeched, "You're destroying our family!" Hannah replied with surgical coldness. "The destruction began when your balances entered delinquency. We simply assumed the role of creditor." Then she ended the call. I breathed out slowly. Not satisfaction. Confirmation. Everything was going exactly as expected. At 7:10 p.m., Rita sent me her nightly report. Smear campaign confirmed. Sources: 9. Claims: Dorothy confused. Dorothy scammed. Dorothy declining. Counteractive evidence. Competency exam on file. I typed back. Proceed. She replied, "Final notices prepped, certified, stamped, ready for dispatch." I sat down in my living room, tea in hand, as the house stayed quiet around me. For years, Derek and Claire believed their voices, their manipulation, their theatrics were enough to control me. Tonight proved they were wrong. Legal power didn't scream. It documented. It executed. It enforced. At 9:58 p.m., Derek called one last time. His voice was unrecognizable, ragged, cornered, terrified. "Mom, please, I'm begging you. Whoever these people are, they're serious. They're talking about liens and asset actions, and they mentioned foreclosure. Mom, please, I swear, we didn't mean any of the things we said. We didn't mean... Just call me, please." I listened to the voicemail once. Then again, every word was proof. Proof that for the first time in his life, Derek understood something simple and absolute. Money had limits. Excuses had limits. Manipulation had limits. But consequences did not. And this time, he wasn't negotiating with the world. He was negotiating with me. I started the next morning with the same calm I used to bring to my old accounting desk. No rush, no panic, just steps. Clear, simple steps. I poured a cup of tea, placed it beside my notebook, and dialed Hannah. She picked up on the second ring. "Are you ready?" she asked. "I am," I said. "Let's finalize the transfer." There was no drama in her voice, no excitement, just precision. That was what I needed. She told me to meet her at her office at 10. I hung up, grabbed my folder, and drove there without music, without a single distraction. For the first time in years, my mind wasn't clouded by guilt or fear. I was focused. When I walked into Hannah's office, she already had the stack of documents laid out on the polished table. A soft desk lamp lit the edges. Everything was neat, organized, unavoidable. Hannah tapped the first document. "This is the debt consolidation purchase. Full rights transferred to you. That part is already done." I nodded. "What's next?" "Lien attachment forms. These allow us to attach Derek's unpaid balances to his primary property. Once they're attached, they can't be ignored." She slid a pen toward me. "When you sign these, Dorothy, we'll move to title reassignment. It's all sequential. Every document leads to the next." I took the pen. My hand didn't shake. I signed the first page, then the next. Page after page, the sound of the pen scratching across the paper felt like tightening a bolt that had been loose for years. When I finished, Hannah flipped to the final packet. "This is the big one. Transfer of title upon default. Since you're the creditor and the debt is active, and given Derek's non-payment, this allows the house to pass legally into your name." I looked at the line waiting for my signature. "He'll never see this coming." "No," she said, "because he doesn't believe you're capable of this." I signed, calm, straight-backed, no hesitation. Hannah gathered every page, tapped the stack into a perfect rectangle, and handed me a copy. "We'll file these immediately. Processing takes a short time, but with your documents and the timeline, the transfer is practically guaranteed." I nodded once. "Let's do it." We walked together to the clerk's counter. The clerk stamped each form with a heavy thud, one after another. The sound echoed through the room like small hammers. I didn't smile. I didn't flinch. I watched every stamp fall. Every stamp meant less power for Derek and Claire. Every stamp meant a step toward clean air for me. When we finished, Hannah placed the final stamped packet into a manila envelope and handed it to me. "You'll want to keep this close," she said. "I will." Outside, the winter air was sharp, but it felt lighter than it had in months. I drove straight to Derek's neighborhood, not to confront him, not to speak, just to see what I now legally controlled. The street was covered in bright Christmas decorations. Inflatable Santas, twinkling lights, glowing reindeer on lawns. The kind of display that costs hundreds every December. The kind of display Derek couldn't afford. I parked across the street and just watched. Claire had draped expensive garlands across the porch railing, the kind with gold-threaded bows. Derek was carrying a glossy new wreath inside. That wreath alone was $80, maybe more. Every piece of the house screamed money they didn't have. I wrote a note in my book, "House decorated beyond means. Spending continues." As I sat there, I remembered a line David had repeated during our tight years. "People in trouble spend more, not less. It's how they pretend they're safe." He was right. I stepped out of the car and walked up the driveway, quiet, unnoticed. I didn't knock. I didn't ring the bell. I simply examined the property from up close. The windows were freshly cleaned. A brand new doormat lay at the threshold. Through the glass, I could see stacks of wrapped presents. Too many, too polished, too luxurious. I took photos, each one time-stamped, each one showing unnecessary spending while debts had gone unpaid for months. Then I walked around the side of the house. A storage bin was cracked open. Inside were things I recognized, the emergency fund gifts I had given them years ago. Camping gear I bought when Derek claimed he wanted to start family trips. A toolbox I gave him for home repairs, all barely used or not used at all. I opened the lid of a second bin. More discarded items I had paid for. Receipts flashed through my mind, hundreds of them. 15 years of emergencies. 15 years of being the solution. Not anymore. I closed the bin and stepped back, letting the cold air settle around me. For a full minute, I stood still and let the truth land. This house was already slipping out of their hands. They just didn't know it yet. When I returned to my car, my phone vibrated. A call from an unknown number. I answered. "Dorothy?" A sweet voice, too sweet. Claire's voice. "Hi. Listen, we've been talking, and we'd really love it if you joined us for Christmas Day after all." I stared at the windshield. "Is that so?" "Yes," she said with a fake laugh. "We want the whole family together. It wouldn't feel right without you." I heard muffled arguing behind her. Derek's voice snapping something, Claire shushing him. They weren't inviting me out of kindness. They were scared. They felt something shifting. "Of course," I said calmly. "I'll be there." Her relief was immediate. "Wonderful. We can't wait to see you." I hung up without another word. Then I lifted the manila envelope from the passenger seat, the one containing the stamped legal transfer forms. I set it on my lap, ran my fingers along the edge, and whispered to myself, "They invited the wrong version of me." I started the car. I drove home. And for the first time in 15 years, I felt in complete control. I arrived exactly at 6. The street was packed with cars. The house glowed like a showroom, lights on every corner, ribbons tied too tightly, wreaths bigger than the door itself, all of it paid for with money they didn't have. I walked up the steps slowly. No nerves, no hesitation, just purpose. Claire opened the door with a wide smile. Too wide. "Oh, Dorothy, you made it," she said, voice high like she was forcing cheer through a crack. I stepped inside. Warm air, too many perfumes, too many people pretending everything was normal. Derek was near the tree, handing out gifts in shiny gold wrapping paper. He didn't look at me at first. Then he saw me. His smile faltered. "Mom," he said flatly. I nodded. "Derek." Relatives filled the living room, chairs pushed close together, children running around. Claire kept moving, adjusting ornaments, trying to act like the perfect hostess. She announced loudly, "Okay, everyone, before dinner, gifts first." People clapped politely. I didn't sit. I stood behind the couch, hands clasped over the manila envelope. My heart was steady, completely steady. Derek handed a box to his cousin. a watch. He gave another box to his uncle, a tablet. Claire gave Ella a new coat. Tyler a new gaming headset. Laughter, clapping, fake warmth filling the room. Then Claire looked at me with a smile that didn't touch her eyes. "Oh," she said, pretending to gasp. "We don't have anything for you. We must have forgotten about you." People looked away, some uncomfortable, some amused. Derek added, "Yeah, Mom. You showed up last minute. Hard to plan for that." I heard a few cousins whisper, "She wasn't invited? What happened? Did they do that on purpose?" I didn't react. I didn't move. Claire raised her chin, satisfied. "I hope you're not too sensitive about it." I spoke clearly. "I'm not." The room quieted. I lifted the envelope. "But I brought something." Claire frowned. "What's that?" "You'll see," Derek scoffed. "Mom, can we not do this at Christmas?" I opened the envelope. The sound echoed, paper sliding against paper. I pulled out the first document and held it up. "This," I said, "is the consolidation of your unpaid balances." Derek's face drained. Claire's smile twitched. I continued, "Every account, every overdue bill, every ignored notice." I tapped the page. "All purchased, all owned, by me." Claire snapped, "You didn't—" "I did." I slid out the second document and placed it on the coffee table. "This is the lien attachment approval. Filed, processed, active." Relatives leaned in. Whispers rose. Derek walked toward me quickly. "Why would you do that?" "You left me no choice," I said calmly. Claire grabbed Derek's arm. "Stop. Don't react. That's what she wants." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't move. Instead, I pulled out the last document, thicker, with the stamped seal still fresh. "And this," I said, placing it down slowly, "is the property transfer upon default." Claire's jaw dropped. "What default?" "Yours," I answered. 67 days past due, and counting. Derek stuttered. "Mom, what does that mean?" I looked directly at him. "It means the debt was legally reassigned to me. It means you didn't pay. And it means the house," I tapped the official stamp, "is no longer yours." The room fell absolutely silent. Not a cough, not a whisper, not a breath. Claire grabbed the papers with shaking hands, scanning them. These aren't real." "They're real," I said. "Everything is filed, stamped, verified." Derek's voice cracked. "Mom, please." "No," I said. "Not this time." Claire threw the papers onto the table. "You can't do this!" "I already did." Derek stepped closer. "Mom, think about the kids." "I have," I replied, "more than either of you has." Claire's voice rose, shrill and panicked. "You're kicking your own son out? On Christmas?" I kept my tone level. "I'm enforcing the consequences you earned." Derek shook his head wildly. "You're punishing us." "No," I said. "I'm finally stopping you." A cousin spoke up softly. Is that even legal?" I nodded. "Yes. Every piece of it." Claire looked around the room desperately. "Someone tell her she can't take our home." No one answered. Derek's breathing picked up. "Mom, please. You can't leave us with nothing." I looked at him the same way I looked at overdue accounts for decades, objectively, without emotion clouding the truth. "You had everything," I said. "You wasted it." Claire pointed at me, trembling. "You're heartless." I shook my head. "No, I'm done being taken advantage of." Derek's eyes filled, but I didn't soften. Not anymore. I picked up the final document, held it up for everyone to see, and spoke clearly, with no anger, only certainty. "This house now belongs to me." The room froze. Claire covered her mouth. Derek sank onto a chair. Someone whispered, "Oh my God!" I placed the stack of documents back into the envelope, closed it, and tucked it under my arm. Then I said one last thing, not loud, not cruel, just final. "You asked me to leave your family. Tonight, I'm simply respecting your wish." I walked to the door. No one stopped me. No one spoke. Behind me, I heard Claire start to sob. Derek didn't comfort her. He just stared at the floor. I stepped outside into the cold air and closed the door behind me. This time, the door didn't shut me out. It shut them in. I drove home in silence. No music, no thoughts chasing each other, just the steady sound of the road under my tires, like everything was finally settling into place. When I stepped inside my house, the quiet felt different. Not empty, not lonely, just mine. I hung up my coat, turned on the small kitchen light, and filled the kettle. The familiar whistle rose a minute later. I poured the hot water over a tea bag and watched the steam curl upward. Simple, steady, uncomplicated. For the first time in 15 years, I didn't feel the weight of someone else's crisis pulling at my shoulders. No phone buzzing, no sudden emergencies, no guilt waiting in the corner. Just peace. I carried the tea to the small table by the window. The night outside was calm. A few houses still had their Christmas lights on, blinking softly in the dark. I let myself breathe it in. My eyes drifted to the framed picture on the shelf. David, standing in our old backyard, smiling the way he always smiled when he caught me overthinking. I picked up the picture and sat with it. "I did it," I whispered. It wasn't for victory. It wasn't for revenge. It was for release. His voice echoed in my memory. Steady, gentle, absolute. Love means saying no. I finally understood what he meant. I set the picture down and wrapped both hands around my teacup. The warmth spread slowly through my fingers. 15 years of being drained. 15 years of solving problems I didn't cause. 15 years of believing that giving more would fix something that was never broken on my side. And now, it was over. Not with shouting, not with triumph, but with a door closing behind me and a quiet house waiting for me to return. I took a slow sip of tea and let it settle in my chest. Justice doesn't always feel triumphant. Sometimes it feels like peace. And tonight, peace finally belonged to me.